Hey everyone, this is Shepard from TeamworkCast.com, here finishing up my series on the Gunlance fighting a G-rank Barroth with a long-type Gunlance, this time with the Divithian Gunlance, I believe that's the name. Get it from Plesioth. I believe this upgrades a little bit from the green Plesioth as well. Might be slightly out of level. I think you might need like a Galacnactor part. Oh well, who cares? Still, not maybe the best run in the world, but pretty good indicator of how I use a Gunlance. Of course, a really interesting choice to use against the Barroth. Of course, the mud on his body makes him weak to water. And when that's broken, he suddenly becomes weak to fire. So you've got two options. Stab him on his butt and shell on his body. That's the fun part about the Gunlance. It always does double duty. And especially the long type is my favorite type. And I've said it before why. Having 3 shells means that you can do a very extended combo. Just about as long as a combo you'd ever really want to do. Normal shot lets you combo up to 5 times, which is a little excessive. Normally, monsters aren't hit down for that long, so the extra damage you do from long shots as opposed to normal shots adds up. Your Wyvern Fire is more powerful. And your combos are longer than what you'd get with a normal wide one. So, all around I like it. Of course, there's another type of water Gunlance you can use as well. It would not be level appropriate on this guy, the Rio Agnacorso, which is normal type. All in all, probably a little bit better than Plesioth Gunlance, but of course, like I said, I like long, so I use it. Of course, that weapon has a slot and even higher water. And so this was new to me. I didn't know that walking up to him while he's rolling around in the mud would actually mud me. I don't know why that had never happened or even the thought ever occurred to me. While I was going into attack, probably not a good idea to attack him anyways. You want him to be covered in mud when you have a water weapon. It boosts your damage. And I remember in my original Monster Hunter Tri LP, if you go into it, I think the best time I had was with the Sword and Shield. And that was again because I had some incredibly good timing with him recovering himself with mud. I had just broken the last piece of mud off with the Sword and Shield when he decided he was going to go back into the mud again. Which was a poor life choice on his part. An interesting thing to note, you may or may not know this, but as you do damage to the tail, even if he puts mud back on it again, that tail's durability is still down. So all that work you've been doing to try and cut it is still there. He doesn't recover it or anything like that. And as, of course, with the Gunlance, it's much easier to cut the tail now. You can do that little fling up into the air attack. The Lance never had quite as easy. You'd have to wait for him to charge and lower his tail or knock him over in order to get the most hits. So whether solo or in a group, the Gunlance can stand up there with a great sword, longsword, and switch axe is among one of the better weapons to try and use in the game in order to cut tails. And just as a side note, this one video has just been rife with production problems. First, Audacity wanted to use the integrated microphone on my web camera 5 feet away. That wasn't great. Then it crashed halfway through the recording. It wasn't great either. Well, first world YouTube video creator problems, not the end of the world. But certainly those of you that ever try your hand at making Monster Hunter videos of your own will one day experience the pain and pleasure of trying to put these things together. So back to the fight, it's kind of funny that Cha-Cha's gone into rage mode now. Probably not the best choice in the world for a speedrun type video with a false Melinx mask, but definitely good to be doing on solo runs only because he grabs parts for you from the monster. The Acorn mask or the Rathalos mask or the Artillery mask could probably all be better choices. Which was an interesting strategy I saw the other day. Somebody had Cha-Cha with the Artillery mask and Kayamba with the Lamp mask. I didn't know if the Lamp mask was because it had really quick recovery time or what, but whatever mask recovers the fastest, that could be an interesting choice. Oh, so there goes the tail. Getting a lot of questions. What sort of damage does the Gunlance do? Is it slashing or is it impact? Well, it has the same attribute that the lance does. It's called piercing, I believe, which is kind of a weird attribute, in that virtually 98% of the time, the damage you're going to do is cutting damage. Well, it makes sense. It cuts things, especially on this lance. It's very clear that it has a blade. But in very, very rare instances, when the monster would take up far more impact damage than cutting damage, it can actually switch and do impact damage instead. In Monster Hunter Tri, the only monster that was really effective on was Gobull's back when he was inflated. I haven't done any such analysis yet in Monster Hunter Tri Ultimate. Presumably there are many, many more monsters with many, many more different weak parts, so that component of the Gunlance might be a better feature now than it was in Monster Hunter Tri for the lance. So at this point, the Barroth is of course in big trouble. Once any monster gets exhausted now, it's pretty much game over. He trips all the time. He sits there and drools all the time, and you're able to just continue to get combos off one after another. And especially at this point, you've knocked off all of his mud, and so your shots are doing extra fire damage as well. Ideally, I would actually be trying to hit his front paws, that's his weak spot, but this is just as well. And ending your combos with that full slam there, even if you don't have shots or a whiff and fire to get off, isn't always a bad thing. Just 40% damage, which is almost as good as a uncharged greatsword draw slash. So, good enough. Especially when he's basically immobile like that. Anything you do to extend your combo is worthwhile. Okay, so not a bad time. About 7 minutes, 21 seconds or so. So for a solo G-rank quest with just about level appropriate gear, again, might slightly above with the Gunlance. Not a bad time. People are, of course, saying that this game is easier. Easier in a small sense in that there's the slime element, but it's also easier in that at least it has a very gradual difficulty curve. So hopefully I've answered many of your questions about Gunlances. Hopefully I've shown some interesting ways to use Gunlances. Stay tuned. I plan to be releasing a different weapon series almost every day over the next coming months. I'm going to really take my time with them. This isn't the sort of, mass production things here. I like to do my research. I like to show, decent fights with level appropriate weapons and really discuss the strategy behind the weapons as well. I haven't yet recorded the next series. I was hoping to do Sword and Shield, but if there's any overwhelming votes in the comments, I may be swayed to change my mind. Still will not release the Shep sheets, sorry. So, until next time, this is Shepard saying good luck, and have a good hunt.